Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, the podcast. You're listening to Author's Corner, where we highlight and showcase our local authors. Today, I'm speaking to Winifred Bragg, MD, author of How to Create Your Bragg Book for a Competitive Job Market. And Dr. Bragg and I are going to be talking today on the topic how to brag on yourself the right way. Welcome, Winifred.
Okay, welcome. Thank you for having me, Myrna.
You're very welcome. All right. Well, this is new content for the show, so I'm anxious to get into it. All right. So let me give you guys a brief introduction. Winifred Bragg, MD, is a physician, business owner, speaker, and 5 times best-selling author. Dr. Bragg is the creator of the Bragg Factor, a system that teaches you how to own your value. She's a sought-after speaker who develops customized programs for universities and Fortune 500 companies. Awesome. All right. Well, I love the way that you transitioned from being a medical doctor to helping people brag in themselves and get jobs and be in the competitive job market. So that's a great segue. So as I was reading your bio and trying to wrap my head around this brag book, one of the first things I came up with is what are some things we may want to put in our brag book if we're looking for a job?
Well, some of the things you want to do, you want to put, where you work, but you want to be able to put some of the accomplishments that you had. Say if you were maybe even a waiter, and you may think I was a waiter at McDonald's or whatever, but what you got to think about, what were the strengths that you gained and the skills that you got at that job? If you worked at McDonald's, do you realize that you had to become a master at conflict resolution? Because sometimes they may put mayonnaise on the sandwich and they wanted mustard, and people get all bent out of shape. But you had to be able to deliver good customer service, and that's transferable not only from McDonald's to corporate America and to other jobs, I mean, from being a waiter to other corporate positions, but you had to learn how to resolve conflict. So you want to look at the job that you had, but think about the skills that you got from it so that it can go into the new job that you look at. You look at the description of the job you want and then put those things in your brag book that's going to elevate you so that you seem to be a fit for what the person is looking for. You can put in the recommendations you have and any rewards or awards that you've gotten. And a lot of times people leave out things that they've done from a volunteer perspective. And volunteerism is really important. You would be surprised the type of people you meet in volunteers are going to be people who are leaders, are going to be CEOs and business owners. And if you say, I worked with Rotary, I worked with my church raising money for that fundraiser, a lot of times people don't put that. But who wouldn't want to have someone of such good character as that in a job? Long answer, but that's what you need to put in there that I see people make a mistake and don't include.
Well, no, that was a perfect answer. But you're calling it a brag book. So we'll go into what exactly you mean by that. But responding to your answer just now is, I haven't been in the job market with resume building for, but 15, 20 years or so. But I remember that, when I lost my job in 2015, they gave me resume coaching. And one of the things that they told you when you're doing the resume coaching is to have a section in there that you put those things in, your accomplishment, the skills, your soft skills, things like that. So that's where people normally would put that. So tell me, where exactly do you put this brag book if it's not on your resume? I was thinking that it might be on your cover letter. So tell us more about this brag book per se.
Well, the brag book helps you as you're going along, like now. You should be thinking about what jobs you had so that you can prepare for for the resume. So you keep your brag book. You could have your brag book information on your phone. You could have notes that you keep, but the brag book just gives you a skeleton, or you could actually have the book and write in the book. But you want to have a system where when you have a job that you're writing down all the time what are the skills and things that you get? Because people forget. And then when they apply for the job, you forgot about that volunteer job you had, or you forgot about that internship you had. So this helps you to keep an inventory of your skills so that when you get ready on the resume, that part you're talking about, you take your brag book and you can pull it from that. You can also create a special brag book like a portfolio, go to Office Max or whatever, and get a book where you're going to put your things in there, your awards, your accomplishments, where you were working. Because sometimes people make up things, and then when you go to the interview, this is going to show that you really did this because you had the awards and you have the certificates, you have the recommendations. So when you get to the interview, you can take a physical book with you that you've made called your brag book that you take to the interview with you. So as you talk about and say, and then in 2015, I got an award for being Woman of the Year, or I got an award because I sold more cars. And you'll be able to show that to the person so that they know that you just didn't make it up and put on your resume. And that's your brag book. So it's a portfolio that you make and take with you to the interview.
I love that. Okay. So I was getting it totally wrong. I'm thinking that when you're applying for these jobs, you're sending in your brag book. But now I'm understanding what you're saying is that you're writing down, whether it's on your phone or some of your soft skills or things like that, that, as you go through these jobs, what are the qualities and the skills and the things that you did? Like right now, my daughter just lost her job and she's been in this job for 10 years and doing a lot of things, started a union, because she was in politicals. She was there, speaking, to groups and things like that. So, that's beautiful. So I'm gonna definitely tell her about what we're talking about here, this brag book, and that she should actually create it. And do you put some of these things in your cover letter, or do you because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Highlight it to make.
Also that I'm gonna put what I call in my brag book, I tell people about how to create what I call a 30-second brag. And that's where in 30 seconds you tell people what you do, your template, who you are. Obviously, I'm Winifred Bragg. I'm a physician, 5-time best-selling author, creator of the Bragg Factor. And then the second sentence should be, how does it help people? So your daughter worked for somebody for 10 years as a manager, and she was over 100 people doing this. And what I did, I helped my company increase their sales. And then her third thing should be, what is her wow factor, her brag factor? What is unique about her? So she worked at this company for 10 years. She was over 100 people managing them, and she helped increase sales. But my wow thing is why I was there. I got very good recommendations, performance evaluations from my superiors. I also was able to increase our sales by 25% over the past year. And as a result, I was promoted from entry level manager to mid manager. See how that's her wow factor. She gets that in 30 seconds. She can say that who she is, how what she does helps others, and then what is unique, her special sauce that's unique about her.
I love that. I love that. I love that.
And she can
Yeah,
practice.
and that is how you separate yourself from the hordes of people that are applying.
That's how you separate
This
yourself.
is good.
And
Yes.
the way I came into this murder is when I finished medical school, I had $100,000 of debt from student loans. And I knew that I had to build a big practice to pay these loans back. So I would go to networking events and say, hi, I'm Dr. Bragg, blah, blah, blah. And I would come home with no referrals, because medical school didn't teach me how to market or how to pitch or any of those things.
No,
So
it
it's
doesn't.
time I learned that I've got to be able to get people to be able to know why come to me over somebody else. And so I had to learn a 30-second brag that I could go to networking, who I am, how I could help you, and what was unique. So now if I'm at a medical thing, you have different brag pitches depending on where you are and what you're doing. If your daughter is trying to pitch herself for a job in sales, she may have one 30-second brag if she's trying to get a sales job. But that's why I say you need to know your skills to know how your skills can transfer and pivot from one place to another. As you see, I'm a doctor, but I'm also a speaker. And as a doctor, seeing patients for 30 years one on one, advising them about their health, what does that make me? A good high performance coach. So I can also coach people on leadership and goal setting. But I am traditionally a doctor, but that is something you can pivot to because the skill set allowed me to do those things. So you see how that does?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I mean, boy, her Brack book should be long because she did a lot of things. Yeah, I'm definitely going to tell her to watch this interview and start preparing her brag book. And I love what you say about when you get to the interview. A lot of people are nervous in an interview because, people are always asking them, what are your strengths? Or what do you accomplish and all that. But if you've already, addressed it in your black brag book, you can be very confident with your response. Even if you don't have to show them your brag book or show them your awards or your certificate, you can still speak to it confidently because you already know. You're not searching in your brain, okay, when did I do this or what? Because, when I was going for interviews, they have this way of trying to trick you and say, just like what you said a minute ago. It was very interesting that you started off with, okay, this person is a waiter um, uh, at McDonald's, but he learned conflict resolution because, people are always unhappy. When you don't give them their sandwich right or something like that, or whatever it is. But people never think about that. And one of the questions when I was doing interviews, they ask you stuff like that. What was one time that you resolved the conflict? Or what was one time that you did something that changed the outcome? They throw these kind of questions at you. So it's very good to be prepared about that. Okay. Yes.
So you have done your inventory of your accomplishments, and to your point, as you write down, you may think, "Well, how am I applying for this job? They don't want me." But as you're creating your brag book, that's going to boost your self confidence
Yes.
and make you believe in you and what you can deliver. And when your daughter looks at that, she says, "I spent 10 years here, but look how I've grown. Look at the skill set that I have. Look at the strengths and the accomplishments." So when she starts putting that cover letter together, that resume, she looks at that and sees it. Like you said, she can take a brag book with her, and I always say, make a copy for you and make a copy that you can leave behind to them in case they wanna have it. They may or may not, but as you're talking and you know that these things, you didn't make them up, that it really happened, you're gonna have confidence, and as you get a little nervous, you have that as a prompt right there with you as a prompt
Yeah.
can help you to maneuver and go through that interview very smoothly. And you would have rehearsed it so that these things are succinct. Your daughter can get that book, kind of go over it with you so that it's short. The people only have a certain amount of time. What was one thing you did as a to resolve a conflict and what was the outcome? You can have about a 30-second answer on that. And a lot of people get messed up and they say, tell me about yourself. Oh, well, I was raised in New York and then I moved. Nobody want to hear that. Just get you a short, succinct highlight. Tell me about yourself.
Yes. You know what? That's really interesting. She had one interview so far, and she told me that on the first question, she went off into a tangent. And then at the end of the interview, they asked her, is there anything you would like to go back and change? And she went back to that tangent. But this is good conversation here because you're right. If she had prepared and had her brack book or whatever, she wouldn't go off on a tangent. She would be able to succinctly answer. So listen, this is a good conversation for this climate because there's a lot of people out there looking for a job. My daughter was one of the casualties of what's going on with the Trump administration, and there's hundreds of thousands of such people that are looking for a job right now. So this is an on time, um, I want to say word like I'm preaching. This is an on time conversation, and I'm very glad that you decided to write a book about it and help. Is your book new or it's been around for a while?
It's been around a couple years. I wrote it during COVID because that
Okay.
was another time that people had a lot of job loss and had to make transitions and learn about pivoting. But I want people to understand that change is just a part of life. And if we prepare for change, when it comes, we can pull our brag books out and we can pull out the things that we have that we know are strengths about ourselves and move forward. And that's why I wanted
You
to.
wrote it. And I love that when you said that sometimes you forget because you know what I do? I'm a journaler. And one of the reasons I write in my journal is because you do forget stuff. So for people that are listening, as you go through and you develop a new skill, you should definitely put that in your brag book because guess what? 5 years down the road, you are going to forget about that. So that is perfect. I love that. Okay.
And then about now, a lot of your daughter's a younger person, but think about there are older people now who've been in jobs for years and years, haven't interviewed in years, haven't changed in years. So this is overwhelming for them to even start this process. And so if you started at home, you get in your mindset, and everything is about mindset. There's a system in the brain you may know of called the reticular activating system that allows us to be able to train our brain so that we can move from obstacles to opportunities. And so we know that what you say, tell your mind, tell the brain wants to do what you tell it to do.
Right.
So when your daughter goes over this inventory of strengths about herself, she's telling her brain that I am enough. I am worthy. Because people feel depressed and get really overwhelmed when they lose a job, and rightfully so. And it's not always their fault, it's just what's happening in this day and time. But it's not about you. You're still good enough to have a good position somewhere. And this is going to help you train your reticular activating system that you're going to be able to see when they ask you those questions, opportunities rather than obstacles. Because you know when they say, tell me about a conflict. Well, I have a conflict right now. You just laid me off with my job. But anyway, be able to answer that with that
Yes.
cohesive
Yes.
you have by asking those questions to see, are you someone who has confidence or do you shy away from that?
Right. Yes. All right. So, which is one of the questions I have here. What are some mistakes we make when bragging? So, a lot of times people fluctuate between am I being too pretentious? Am I being too overconfident? Am I being too boastful? So, what are some of the mistakes that we don't want to brag about? So,
Well, one of the things, and particularly for women, women tend to think that bragging is bad. So that's their mindset that is bad because they're taught that it's boastful and it's too braggadocious. And what you need to think about, how many people come by your desk and say, "Hey, can I give you a raise today?" If you don't tell them about your
right.
accomplishments, they won't know. And we know statistically that if there's a job that has 10 qualifications, a man will apply if he has only one qualification, and a woman won't apply if she lacks one. So that's one of the things we know to wrap your mind about that. Do you want him to have the job that you really deserve? So sometimes we hold back on bragging and give all the credit to someone else and don't give any credit to ourselves. So one of the things you do, my last name Bragg, Bragg, the last G stands for gratitude. So I tell people, think about bragging from a standpoint of gratitude, and then you won't seem too boastful. You could just say, well, during that 10 years, I was grateful that I was able to be able to go from an entry level manager all the way to the executive vice president area. And in that, I was able to grow from managing 20 people to 100. And these are the things that I learned. See how that sounds? You
Yeah.
said gracious about
Grateful. Right.
that I'm for that. And you just say that, and it makes people then understand it. But as long as you're saying facts, it's okay. The other thing, some people feel that they are too shy and they don't want to do it. And so they make a mistake that they don't say enough good about themselves. They use the word just and only. For instance, well, I just managed 15 people. Just diminishes what you did
Yeah. Yeah.
elevate yourself. And when you say just and only, I had a lady who came to one of my coaching things, workshops, and she said she was a young woman who was working for a nonprofit raising money. And she said, well, I only ever raised $10,000. Well, look at me. I've only raised $5 for something. She had only raised
Mhm.
10,000. $10,000 is a lot, but she said only.
Okay. Right.
Get rid of those words, only and just, and don't use them in the vocabulary when you're talking about your accomplishments because then you just diminish them.
Should we use another word by saying by putting it out there because I know conversation, you can direct people how to think. So, can you make that another way? I am they asked me to raise 5,000 and I raised 10,000. Something like that.
I was given the charge. Our goal was to raise 5,000, and through hard work and working with my team, I was able to raise
Yeah,
$10,000.
so that's the way you frame it, right? I agree. Yes. So that's a totally different approach than saying, I only rate 10,000, probably because she probably said that because maybe the goal was a whole lot bigger than that and she felt that she felt short. But when you put it out there, you have to put it out there in a different spin. So you have to frame it differently. So I love that. Right. Okay.
And she learned from coming to a coaching, workshop to get rid of, just, and she has now there's been a couple years later, she now has her own marketing company, and she says she
That's
never used the
beautiful.
word just and only, but she looked at other parts in her life where she was always saying just and only and diminishing her skills. So she got rid of that and got on the road to moving herself up.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, that's what basically coaching does. It gives you clarity, take away your blind spots, and allow you to see some of the things that you're doing wrong. And it sounds like your coaching program also helps people to understand their strengths and to write it down on paper. Just today, I was listening to a book that says, write it down. You got a plan. Don't keep it in your head. Write it down. The same thing. You've got some soft skills. Don't keep it in your head. Write it down. Create your brag book, right? Write it down, right? You can go back to that 10 years down the road because you've written it down and it's always there. So
When you
beautiful.
write it down, you can say it out loud to yourself when you read it, and that
Yes.
gives you the opportunity to critique it, to massage it, and make it better. But at least get it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect because you can go back to it and repeat it and then say, you know what? I can make that sound better.
Yes. Yes. Write it down. Right. Yes. All right. So now tell us about your brag factor. So what is that exactly?
The brag factor is a 5-step system that I created to help people to be able to own and communicate their value. It has 5 steps and it uses my name as the acronym. B stands for behave as if. If you want to be a manager, like for instance, when we're in medical school, they always put us on a white coat. It's a short coat. And when you see somebody with a short coat with a young face, I always tell people that's the medical student. That's not the main doctor. But anyway, they put us in a coat and they put a stethoscope around our neck because what they wanted us to start doing, behaving as a
Right.
doctor. So
Really?
you
Yes.
behave as if. So whatever it is that you want to become, you want to model it so that you can behave as if and your mind starts making you think that way. If you want to be a teacher, you be able to get in front of a class and explain things. Behave as if is the first thing. And then you do that with confidence and then you fake it till you make it. And then suddenly you soon will realize, hey, I behave this way. Now this has become a natural for me. There's a guy named Roger Bannister back in 1954 wanted to break the 4-minute mile. He was a 26-year-old medical student, and they told him, you would never be able to do that. That could be even harmful to your health. But guess what? He did it. But he wrapped around his mind that he was going to complete that with certainty. So not only did he train his body, but he trained his mind to believe that he would do it. And they say that it is his ability to wrap around his mind that he could do it with certainty is the reason he broke that. So you have to behave as if. The second thing of that, the brag fact is R, resist the urge to quit and complain. No matter whenever you're trying to move forward, there's always going to be opportunities to get a detour and fall off the road. But you have to be like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. Stay on that yellow brick road. And that's why you want to write your goals, as you say, and review them and try to continue on that. So resist the urge to quit and complain. And the A stands for accept no limitation. G stands for grow your gift. I have coached people who came to me with skills that they needed a job, but when I talked to them, I found out that they had some special natural gifts that they had. And if they grew their gifts, they could grow their gifts, and that became a business. So people say, well, how do I know my gift? In your circle of friends, there are things, Myrna, that people just naturally come to you and ask you about. There's a lady who was in a coaching class for me, said, people always want me to organize things for them and do this. When they have this, I'm just organizing it. And I told her, do you know what a great skill that is? There are people who own big businesses and you pay them a lot of money to organize your closet. How many people have clutter in their closet or in their home? So this lady now has a business and she goes to different people when people's parents are downsizing. She's an organizer. So you could that wasn't she didn't go to school for that. That was a gift she had. So what do people come to you for naturally all the time? That could be a business for you. Grow your gift. And the last G in the brag factor is gratitude. We know that people who show gratitude are healthier, more successful, and they live longer. So you should get up each day thanking the people who are around you, your loved ones, letting them know how much you appreciate them and your team. If you have a team at work, you want to let them know that you appreciate what they do because people will move forward more with a compliment than criticism. So those are the 5 steps of the brag factor.
Oh, that's beautiful. So how do people get a hold of this brag factor? Is it a coaching session? And I know you have your book, so talk about your book. Is this in your book?
This is in my book, and they can get a copy of my book from Amazon. They can also go to my website, thebragfactor.com, and get a hold to me if they are interested in coaching or coming to a workshop. Within actually starting next Tuesday, I am going to be doing a membership group so that people who want to have coaching in a group will be $15.95 a month. And I will be doing lectures on different leadership tools, and then we'll have time for Q&A, and that'll be $15.95, and I will be putting the link out for that later this week, and I'm gonna be starting it on next Tuesday, the 13th.
Wow, that's amazing. Because as I was listening to you, I'm thinking, wow, I should get my daughter to hook up with this lady. Um, because you got to get your head right, and you've got to if you're gonna get the perfect job, you don't just pray about it, which is we're doing, but you gotta you also gotta put in the work. And I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, wow, this is great conversations to have, even if it's just to set you up in the right mindset and train your what you call it, the brain thing. Right, so right. Yeah. So $15.99. Wow. That's amazing that you're doing that because I know that's when that coaching doesn't cost that these days. So that's really good that you're making it so affordable.
One-on-one would be more, but this would be a group, and I wanted to do it to make it affordable so that people from all walks of life could benefit from it. And I'm doing it because, I've been blessed to have a thriving practice where I started with a zero when I was learning how to do the brag factor to having treated over 20,000 patients. I've coached hundreds of people, and it's my way to help people go from where they are to where they want to be. And so I hope that it's helpful to people, and that would be going to thebragfactor.com. They can do they can also take a free chapter of my book from going to that website, thebragfactor.com. It'll give you one chapter from my book on how to create your brag book.
Well, you don't need one chapter. They can buy the darn book. Books are not expensive these days.
That's right, it's not
A
that
lot of people say that, you can buy a book for $20. If you don't got $2,000 for the course, you can buy it for $20, but you're giving away courses for 15.99 here. So yes, they can go ahead and buy the book, right? It's
they can buy
good skills to create because even if you're not looking for a job, who knows? 5 years down the road, 2 years down the road, 6 months down the road, you might be looking for a job. So it's good to create your brag book, or even if you want to move up in the company and you want to apply for that management job and you don't think that you're qualified. When you go for that management interview, you've got to be able to brag on yourself. So this is something that people should create right now. So that's great.
Right, you should just have it because, like you say, we live in very critical times now involve
Uncertain times. Yes.
yeah, personally and professionally. You know, if you want to go on a date with somebody, they want to know why do you want to date me? Well, I just do this.
I like that. What are you bringing to the table? This is what I'm bringing to the table. I love that.
This is why you want me. You go on those dating lines or whatever. This is why you want me. Put yourself in a positive way so that you can attract a superstar toward you.
Yes, yes, this is what I bring to the table. Amazing. Awesome.
The table.
Yes, well, Winifred, I am so glad that I invited you to be on the show. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I think it's an on time conversation. And definitely, I will definitely push it out to as many people as I can. And I definitely have my daughter join your coaching group. So thank you so much. Again, Winifred's book is called How to Create Your Brag Book for a Competitive Job Market. It's available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. You can head over to her website, which is thebragfactor.com. I will have a summary of my conversation with Winifred on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I also link out to her website and her book, just in case you didn't catch it from our conversation. I enjoy this conversation. I am glad that I was able to bring you this content at this time when I know a lot of you are looking for work. A lot of you have job insecurity. You might be looking for work. And a lot of you might want to move up in the world. So this is some soft skills because you know what they say is the soft skills that land you the job. It's not that, hey, you graduated from Harvard or you've got this certificate on your wall. People want to know what you've done with it. What can you do? How do you help a corporation move from here to there? So the soft skills. So thank you very much, Winifred. I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you sharing what you shared with the audience. So as we wrap up, any last words?
I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I want the people to know that whatever it is that you want to do, first believe and know that you are good enough. If someone else could do it, you can do it as well. I invite you to my membership uh, course to come, and like again, they can find out about it at thebragfactor.com, and anything else you might want to know about me is on that website. And I hope that I get the pleasure to meet some of you. And thank you, Myrna, for having me.
You're very welcome. You're perfect until the end. I love it. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode of Author's Corner. Until next time, namaste.